Hello, hello, beautiful people. Welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. You are watching the Zenith Glow Astrology YouTube channel. My name is Christina and I am an astrologer. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you and I hope you are all doing fantastic. How are you all doing with these energies right now? Today is actually the day that everyone's been talking about, the day that I'm recording this anyway. Who knows when I'll actually post this video. But the day that I'm recording this is the day that 3i Atlas reached its perihelion. I gotta tell y'all, I have definitely been feeling the energies, and I mean that in a very good way. Uh, this video is actually all about the Taurus full moon, but I'm just going to make a quick comment about the 3i Atlas stuff real quick since I'm, kind of in that flow. I've heard people saying, like, hey, was this just nothing? Did it turn out to be nothing? Was there just a bunch of fuss? Because we haven't seen any calamity. We haven't seen any big exposure or anything, I don't know, an external event happen, whatever people were expecting. I don't know. I don't really follow all the narratives, but the idea is that because there wasn't some big kaboom out in the world stage or in some kind of physically visible way, people assumed that it was all just a bunch of hype and that it actually means nothing. So, once again, I just want to draw your attention to this idea that I've been talking about, which is that 3i Atlas and the comets hold feminine energy. Feminine energy. So, once again, this is talking about pulling up what is hidden into the light. 3i Atlas, feminine coming into conjunction or perihelion actually with the sun. Sun is illumination, right? So, again, feminine energy is not about action. It's about being, it's about perceiving, it's about receiving, it's about observing and noticing and tapping into intuition and wisdom. So, to that end, any kind of effects that we're going to observe from 3i Atlas isn't going to be something, this is my opinion, isn't going to be something that comes as a big kaboom out there somewhere outside of ourselves. Rather, it's going to be a big bloom inside of ourselves. Something that comes into conscious awareness, something that rises from the subconscious, from the shadow, from deep within the inner recesses of ourselves, something that we are drawing down through intuition, right? Into the third eye, into the heart. So, yeah, if you're waiting for something out there, so to speak, I don't think you're going to witness it. I don't think you're going to find it. That's not what I've been talking about. I've been talking about having something come up from within and being able to finally see it clearly within ourselves. Just wanted to throw that out there for y'all to think about if you were waiting for something to happen, so to speak. And again, also, just want to point out that energy is fluid. And whenever we have big astrological events, whether it's a full moon or whether it's this really strange interstellar object doing funny things, it's not necessarily like, okay, it's going to be exact at this time on this day, so this is the moment that something's going to happen. Sometimes we do observe things in a really clear-cut way like that, but I would say that that's more rare. I would say that it's more common that we start to experience like a bleed through of energy. And usually there is some kind of a climax or a peak of energy where we experience something distinct. And oftentimes that thing is something that's very individualized for each of us. It's going to be very different for each of us. So, this energy has been brewing. It's been flooding in. Today there is a peak of that energy. And I certainly have been experiencing lots of synchronicities and I've been getting lots of intuitive messages. And I have to tell you, I've been having lots of heart activations today. So, again, as far as I'm concerned, everything I've been talking about has been pretty on point, at least with my experience of what has unfolded. To each their own. You may perceive this to be different. You may be experiencing it differently. Cool. It's all good. Let's all collaborate and share our stories. And then after the fact, we can figure out what the hell just happened. But either way, I'm seeing it as a good thing. And there's there's a lot of energy going on. And once again, we are also bleeding into the Halloween, Samhain, All Saints Day, Dia de los Muertos weekend. I also just realized as I was about to start this video that we have daylight savings happening on, or is it daylight savings? It is daylight savings still, right? When you go back. Either way, we're going to fall back in time. Ooh, gotta go back in time. We're going to be doing that on November 2nd. So that is also part of this energetic portal. And then today, in this video, which I have not gotten to even remotely yet, you're like, what the heck, Christina? I tuned in to learn about the Taurus full supermoon, and you're still talking and yammering on about Three Eye Atlas. Well, we are going to talk about the supermoon, which is on November 5th. And again, that is actually looped into this whole energy portal as well, which I didn't talk about in the last video that I did, but maybe I should have. Now, I was trying to lure you guys into this video. No, I'm kidding. But really, it is all part of the same thing because once again, energy happens in like these spaces, these windows, it starts to kind of ebb and flow. It's not these like clear cut lines of delineation between events. So, we've had energy flooding in already, even just going all the way back to the new moon a couple weeks ago, or, a little over a week ago. And then we have the Three Eye Atlas thing. We've got all the comments. We've got the Samhain Gateway this weekend. We have daylight savings time that's getting lumped in with that, which is also another interesting dynamic that we're throwing into the mix, right? The kind of disorienting on top of all these other energies that are, confluencing at this time. And that is confluencing a verb, or is it more of a noun? Coalescing at this time. We'll say that. And then we have the Taurus full supermoon on November 5th. Okay. So, between the weekend and between the Taurus supermoon, these energies are all flooding, coalescing, weaving, flowing together. All right. So it's like bam, 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 thing after thing after thing. So it's it was a very busy time. This shift between October and November, and that's another factor to consider is the numerology is changing, right, as we go between October and November. So consider that in your own personal numerology chart, but then also collectively, we're shifting from 1 to 2 or 1 to 11, and then November 11 2. It's that kind of initiation into the master builder phase and kind of calling on us to cultivate harmony in our lives. And then again, there's also the personal level of it. Okay, I am getting way out in the weeds here. Let's come back, let's focus, let's talk about this Taurus full supermoon. So again, it's happening on November 5th. It's going to be like the cap on everything that has already happened this past week. And so it will be at 13 degrees, 22 minutes of Taurus, and it's going to be exact at 8:19 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So again, we have a time change happening just a few days before the full moon, so take that into account when you're considering, if you are someone that wants to get really specific about when it reaches its peak illumination. So yeah, Taurus full supermoon, something is culminating, something is coming to fruition, something is being illuminated, and we are birthing or releasing something, right? Interesting, because again, this is the capper on all of the energies that we've already been feeling and all of the events that we've been progressing through. So this is like the grand finale of everything. So let's pull up, let's see, do I want to do, yeah, let's pull up a chart. We'll go with the chart first. And I did do a tarot reading. That's the way I want to roll today. So hopefully you dig that kind of thing. So chart. All right. I'm not going to break down every little thing because I actually want to flow with this a little bit more loosey-goosey and not get too stuck on the technical details of this event. It's just the way I'm feeling, folks. So again, we have the sun in Scorpio opposite of the moon in Taurus at the time of this full moon. That's going to be happening at 13 degrees, 22 minutes of Taurus. And there are, there's still like some residual, continual, I don't know. There's some alignments that were present at the last new moon in Libra that are still kind of continuing. For example, we still have that yod between Uranus and Gemini, the Saturn Neptune conjunction in Pisces, and then Venus in Libra. That's still going on, but Venus is starting to move out of the yod. So that energy is beginning to wane. We have a lot of out of sign angles happening, meaning that they are not exactly precise. For example, we have this grand trine still going on between Saturn and Jupiter and Mars. Plus, we could lump in Black Moon Lilith, we could lump in Mercury to that. But now these planets are more out of sign, right? Because Mars has shifted into Sagittarius. It's no longer officially a grand water trine. So the energy of that has changed a little bit. So there's a lot of things like that happening. And same deal, we have that T square between Jupiter, Venus, and Pluto. So it's not officially like precise T-square as it would be if they were all in the exact elements that they normally would be in to make that configuration. So what does that mean? Well, on a symbolic level, we are transitioning, we are blending energies. There is like a state of flux happening between the expressions of these planets. And so things are not quite so clear cut, not quite so defined. Uh, it's a little bit chaotic in a way, this energy. It's a little bit it's not that it's chaotic, it's that it's not clean. It's not, and clean isn't even really the right word I'm looking for here. What am I trying to say, folks? I'm trying to say that this is blended energy. So it's dynamic. It's complex energy is what I'm saying. It's not simple, you know? Um, so that actually does show up in what's happening with the expressions of all of these planetary bodies. And I find this full moon interesting because it's a full moon in Taurus, right? Taurus is ruled by Venus. We still have Venus at the apex of that yod, although it is a waning yod at this point, meaning that the energy is starting to dissipate. It's not quite as intense as it was previously. But when I did my tarot reading, I actually got very different energy standing out as what is most prominent at the time of this full moon. Because, I'm sitting here thinking, well, Taurus, Venus is in Libra, that's the sign that she rules. We're going to get like some strong feminine energy. We're going to get you know, some soft energy, or I don't know. When I actually pulled up the chart to look at everything, after doing the tarot reading, I realized, oh no, yeah, there's some other stuff going on that's influencing this event that we may not realize at first glance when we consider, oh, a Taurus full moon, what's that going to look like? So I find that really interesting, and that's what we're going to dig into today, right now. Right now. Okay, so that's the chart, and what I want to point out in this chart that is very important at the time of this full moon, apart from the full moon itself, right? Apart from the sun and moon in opposition, we have Mars just shifted into the sign of Sagittarius and is sitting at 0 degrees. It's almost at 1 degree of Sagittarius, actually, at the time of the full moon. It is exactly opposite of Uranus in Gemini, which is retrograde, and it is at 0 degrees of Gemini. So that is a very, very important placement that is factoring into this full moon. Okay, let's talk about the tarot reading and why that's important. Take that away. Here we go. Okay, this was my crazy tarot reading that I did. It looks like extra cluttered because I needed extra cards for clarification. So here's what we have going on. We have our overarching theme of energy coming through. We have at the very top of the reading, we have the vision, which is an archetype card, and then we have flexibility. So together, these cards are very interesting. What this energy is talking about, what this message is that during this full moon, and remember, full moon, it's the capper at the end of all of this stuff that just happened, right? What is happening is there is a moment of illumination. There is a moment of realization, culmination, something being birthed, something coming to light, okay? That's the energy of full moons anyway, and that's also showing up here in this tarot reading. There is a vision that we are drawing down. This card talks about how each of us is born with this innate vision, this innate sense of purpose that drives us, right? And I find that really interesting, and I'm so sorry I did not put this in the chart that I just pulled up for y'all that we just looked at, but we do still have goddess asteroid Vesta in Sagittarius, and I think she's at 24 degrees of Sagittarius, somewhere around those parts, maybe 28 degrees. It doesn't matter. She's still making contact with Chiron and Aries, and Mary Magdalena, who is sitting at, I think, 25 degrees of Leo, okay, at the time of this full moon. All right. Now I know that wasn't in the chart. Bad astrologer. Sorry for not putting that there. I looked at it earlier and then I pulled the chart up again and I totally forgot to add those planetary bodies in. But Goddess Asteroid Vesta very much resonates with this concept of the vision. The vision is, you know, who was it? Was it Socrates or Plato? One of those Greek dudes talked about each of us being born with a daemon, with this innate gift, this kind of spiritual essence that follows us around, and it symbolizes the purpose that drives us in life, the thread that we are following consciously or unconsciously as we go throughout our lives. Vesta symbolizes that same thing, represented as the sacred flame within us. It is the thing that represents our passion and our purpose, and the thing that lights us up from the inside out, that brings us the most joy and fulfillment. But sometimes we don't know what that thing is, right? We go throughout our lives and we sort of get confused. It's there in childhood. It's connected to the inner child. It's pure. It's unobscured when we are little. And then as we grow older and we get layered on with all of this conditioning, it starts to become more and more obscured, and it becomes harder to find that flame within, right? And we start to follow a path that is designated for us by other people, by society, by, the rules, or however we're supposed to play the game to fit in. So we start to lose sight of that thing. But the daemon is always following us. It is always with us, and it is always guiding us. The sacred flame still burns within. We know that we make contact with that sacred flame when we do something and we feel enlivened by it. We feel energized by it, right? It gives us energy. And then the opposite is also true. When it drains us, it's something that's out of alignment for us, right? So that's what this vision is talking about. It's talking about this thing, which is different for each and every one of us, because each and every one of us came here to do something specific that only you can do. There's no one else in the world that can do what you can do. And you have a very special mission that you came here to fulfill, right? And the whole point of this journey is to uncover what that mission is. At the time of this full moon in Taurus, that thing is becoming clearer to each of us. That is the vision that is being drawn down into each of us. And so the flexibility card comes in because that thing may look different than what we had originally pictured. It may be a very different expression, because each of us has kind of a sense, we have some kind of deep inner sense of what the thing is, what the vision is, what that sacred flame is. But we've got all this conditioning, we've got the ego personality, there's all these layers to it. So we get these ideas about, okay, well, this is how it's going to happen. Like, this is my purpose and this is how it's going to show up for me. X, Y, and Z has to happen first, or I have to make sure that I wrap up this part of my story before I can go to this part, or these types of people have to come into my life before I'm able to do this. Whatever it is, we tell ourselves stories, Gemini, right? Uranus, Gemini. We tell ourselves stories about how this thing is going to unfold. But of course, the divine always has a clearer vision and a higher plan for us, and nobody can top the timing and the play out of the divine's plan. And so this flexibility card, which is actually symbolized by bamboo, if you read the meaning of the card, it's about having flexibility, but it's also about, if you have flexibility, if you are able to be strongly rooted, right? Like bamboo. Bamboo has crazy root systems that allow it to be super strong and withstand all of these crazy conditions, even like frost and certain, weather shifts that would normally tear down other types of plants. Bamboo is able to withstand all of those things because it's got a strong root system and because it is flexible, right? So if you're able to hold this energy, this flexibility, and to be rooted in yourself, you actually have the potential to experience exponential growth, because that's the way that bamboo grows. It grows underground and it creates these gnarly root systems, gnarly, not literally maybe, but it creates these elaborate root systems, right? But it takes a while, usually, depending on, the type of bamboo that it is, it takes a while for it to actually break ground. But once bamboo does break ground, it shoots up, literally shoots, bamboo shoots. It shoots up and it grows super abundant, super fast. And that is the energy of this full moon. And I actually find this really, really exciting because, again, we're in the year of the wood snake, right? We have been shedding and shedding and shedding and transforming and working and shedding. And oh my God, I'm so freaking tired now. But it's also the energy of the element of wood. And wood is steady and strong, and it is abundant, right? Bamboo, it's abundant. Taurus, it's abundant, okay? All of these themes are going together at this time. So, again, the message, the theme of this full moon is that there is a vision that we are being given, that we are finally able to realize. But in order to realize the vision for our lives, the next steps in our plan or whatever our purpose is, we have to hold flexibility, right? We have to be willing to bend in the way that we are moved to bend. We have to be open to the opportunities that present themselves to us at this time, rather than being rigid in our perspectives and holding on to old ideas that maybe don't actually serve our highest good. We might think we know what we need to do to get to, a certain point, right? Whatever the goal is. But again, spirit has a higher perspective and can see things a lot clearer than we can. And there might be something presented to us that seems completely illogical, but is actually going to be the thing that produces the most abundance, that gets us to that point that we are looking to get to the fastest. But again, you have to be flexible. So that is actually the theme during this Taurus full moon. We are receiving that information. Now, in order to do that, in order to receive, right? Taurus is about receiving and cultivating. We have to temper ourselves. Okay, so we have these next cards in line, which is Mars, the seventh house, and Leo. So, and these aren't necessarily meant to be taken literally in an astrological sense, although actually some of them are. So, what these cards are talking about, again, I mentioned Mars is at 0 degrees of Sagittarius, right? Mars is our will and our action and our drive. It is impulsive, right? It rules Aries. Aries rules the head, okay? So we have, again, this concept like, this is how this is going to work out. I have a purpose, I have a destiny, I feel driven, I'm going to go for it. Sagittarius is that kind of energy as well, right? It's another fire sign, so Mars does well in Sagittarius in general. But it can be very impulsive energy, right? Because Mars just is impatient. It just wants to jump in and take action. Okay. Now, meanwhile, we have Leo. And again, I mentioned that goddess asteroid Mary Magdalena is in Leo at this time, forming that trine between Vesta, sacred flame, and Chiron, our wounded healer. So Leo rules the heart, right? So we're talking about balancing head and heart at this time because we have this seventh house card in between the two. Seventh house, Libra, relationships, Venus. This is about harmonizing. This is about balancing opposites. This is about synthesizing two opposing forces within us, okay? And again, we actually see that represented through the astrology between Mars in opposition to Uranus, okay? And again, Mars is very impulsive and wants to take action, and Uranus is very sudden. Uranus is also very disruptive energy. So when we go down to the next line of our cards here, we have this card of assertion, and then we have this other card of, originality. So, and this is very much speaking to that Mars Uranus dynamic, okay? So Mars is in Sagittarius. It is like ready to make leaps and bounds. It is ready to jump in full force. Let's do this. And Uranus is like, I've got a vision. I know exactly what I need to do. And it's this it is a little bit chaotic. It can be a little bit chaotic energy. But what we need to do, we see in the next cards over. We have patience and solitude. Okay, the solitude card actually has a compass on it. We are being asked at the time of this full moon to temper our impulses toward action so that we can align head and heart, because there are two different opposing forces at play here, right? We have that perception, which might be rooted to the past, okay? It might be rooted in this is what I think is going to happen, or this is how I think things should be happening. And then we have the wisdom of the heart, which is receiving those messages from the inner child, from the inner daemon, from the divine, right? There's the divine guidance coming in, the vision that we are drawing down. But we have to get quiet. We have to calm the energy, and we have to be still and patient within ourselves if we want to receive the vision properly, if we want to actually get clarity on what that is and get the next step for the path. Okay. And then the tarot cards just support all of this energy. Okay. So again, we have the strength card. Same deal. Like we're holding the tension of opposites. We are holding strength. We are balancing the heart. We are being present, even though we feel this very strong energy that is compelling us to go into action. We have the Seven of Swords, which is about strategy. And again, really looking at the whole picture, right? We have what's above the surface, what's below the surface. Both are present at this time, but we might only see the surface level things if we're not calming ourselves down and becoming still enough to really see what's rippling beneath the waters, okay? So we have a picture that's being presented to us, but again, if we leap into action before we really stop to consider everything, we might not see the full picture. So this is about strategy, strategizing, like I'm going to be temperate, I'm going to calm down, I'm going to go within myself, I'm going to listen deeply. So the Eight of Wands, we have a message coming through, and it is coming through very quickly, okay? It is fire energy. This is coming from the divine. This is coming from your higher self. This is coming through whatever, this confluence of energies, this portal that we're emerging from during the time of the full moon. And then we have the Queen of Wands. She is literally receiving the vision in this card, okay? So again, inspiration, right? Faith, optimism, but we are getting that creative vision. It's coming down to us, but we have to be open. We have to receive it at the time. Now, I was sitting here looking at this reading going, okay, that's great. Like Mars and Uranus and so much fire energy in this reading. What the hell does this have to do with Taurus, right? because I hear a lot of astrologers out there like talking about a financial reset, and they're talking about big abundance coming in, and it's very Taurian theme kind of stuff, and it all makes sense. And again, everything has its place. I'm not saying that stuff is wrong. But as I looked at this reading, which was really emphasizing the fire energy during this full moon in Taurus, earth energy, I wanted to know more. Like, how does this get into the earthy Taurus of it all? So, what we have, there's a few things, okay? Illumination of Taurus, right? Taurus is symbolic of our routines, our patterns, where we are rooted, what makes us feel safe, how we cultivate our own survival. Okay, so it is linked to survival, it's linked to self worth, and it's linked to self sustainability and that sense of stability that we all cultivate in our lives and ourselves. Okay, but again, going back to that flexibility card, we're getting a vision for ourselves at the time of this full moon. And that thing that we receive, the ideas, the inspiration, the guidance about our next steps, it might push us a little outside of our comfort zone. That is what this Two of Wands is all about. You are getting a broader vision for your life, and you're being beckoned. You're being beckoned to take steps and to go somewhere you've never been before. The Two of Wands is about making decisions between two different things. Are you going to cling to the known, which is comfortable and that you know how it's going to go, right? You're safe there, you've been there, you've done that. But it's also stale and it's boring and it's limiting your growth. You're being beckoned to go outside of yourself now and to step outside your comfort zone. It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't know, right? And you are being beckoned to go out into the unknown. And that is scary. That is scary as hell, folks. And it pushes you outside your comfort zone. Once again, that's why we're being advised. Be flexible. Don't cling to old patterns. Don't cling to old mindsets, because if you're willing to step outside your comfort zone, there's something being offered. So we have the Four of Cups here, right? Once again, the Four of Cups is showing that old path, right? The devil that you know, okay? It's the thing that you know, but guess what? You're bored with it. You're bored with it. It's dull. You don't feel alive. I was talking about the thing that activates the sacred fire within, right? It makes you feel alive. It makes you feel passionate, excited. Things that don't do that drain your energy. They make you feel listless and lifeless, right? So that is being shown here in the Four of Cups. But the Four of Cups is also telling us that there is a fourth option that we don't see, right? And it's something that's actually very stable. It's something that will produce a lot of growth in us. There's that bamboo card again, right? But we have to be willing to see it because it's right in front of us. We're being given the vision, but you have to contemplate. You have to go into stillness. Again, solitude and patience. You have to go into silence, contemplation to receive this message and to see it clearly. Once you do that, once you hold that strength and you temper your desire to take action, or that restless energy that we're getting through Mars Uranus opposition right now, you will receive the vision, you will receive the message, you will see that other cup that is available that's being offered to you. And that cup is the biggest cup of all, and it holds the light, it holds the love, it holds a new beginning, right? And so then finally, our last card in this reading is the Magician. And the Magician is showing us the true Taurus energy of it all right now, okay? If we are willing to be silent, to be still. That's also Taurus energy, by the way, just being present, just being slow and still. If we are willing to slow down, to temper our need for action, to listen to what's coming through our higher selves at this time, and if we can receive that message, we can take that vision and draw it down into physical manifestation. Taurus. We are going to take the vision, we are going to take the inspiration, we are going to take the creative insight, whatever it is that each of us is receiving at this time that is being illuminated through this full moon, that we are coming into realization of at this time, that is the culmination of all this other stuff that just happened that I just talked about, right? This is the big kahuna going on right here, guys. If we are able to draw that down into physical manifestation, bam, it's real. It's not just an idea anymore. We're not just in a holding pattern anymore like we've been doing all year long, most of us. Like, we are ready to sprout from the ground. And when we do that, and again, if we hold flexibility about the vision, if we are willing to do that, once we break ground, we are going to shoot up. It is going to be abundant. It is going to be fast energy. Okay? It's going to grow faster than you ever imagined it could. So, yeah, there are a lot of astrologers out there talking about whatever, financial reset. I don't know if it's a reset, but they are talking about this huge abundance energy coming through, the energy of, Scorpio and Taurus, which rule the money signs, right? Or those are the money signs of astrology. That is true. That is true. They rule the second and the eighth houses, what we cultivate and earn for ourselves to survive, second house, what we inherit and receive from others, eighth house. So there is this theme of money, abundance, physical manifestation coming through at this time. And this also ties into the previous readings that I did, through the Libra new moon and through the 3-eye Atlas stuff. All of this, it's all this same thread of energy, okay? Something physical, something tangible, something real. I talked about it when I talked about the comets, right? Because with that reading, and I'll link to that. I think it was the last video that I just did. I don't know. Time is kind of wibbly wobbly right now. And it's going to get even more so, right? Because we have the time change right before all of this. Maybe that's on purpose, right? The timing of this is not an accident, okay? When we are shook out of our patterns, out of those rigid lines that we have been adhering to. And the time change kind of does that for us, right? It sort of makes us feel a little out of whack. But maybe that slightly chaotic energy opens us up to shift into the next thing, right? To align with the manifestation, to draw the manifestation to us because we're no longer stuck in the rigid pattern. Does that make sense? And by the way, that slightly mixed up, kerfuffly, chaotic energy is mutable energy in astrology. And that is Sagittarius, right? And that's where Mars just moved. It's also Gemini. It's where Uranus is right now. So again, I can see why Spirit was telling me, hey, you need to focus on this whole Mars-Uranus thing going on at the time of this full moon. It's very important. It's a very prominent aspect happening. It's going to be the highlight of what's happening at this time. But again, and let's go ahead. You guys are probably tired of looking at that. Again, this is really about going into yourself, because each of us, this is going to show up differently for each of us. Each of us has a different path. Each of us has a different vision. All right. You can't look outside of yourself to receive this. You have to go inward. You have to get quiet. You have to get still. Cultivate the elements of Taurus in order to do that. Taurus is all about being present and being calm. Okay. And just observing what's in your physical reality. So if you need some help with this, try that. If you suck at meditation, that's totally fine. I'm not great at it either. But one thing that I love to do, and by the way, I do have Taurus energy in my chart. One thing that I love to do is I actually love to just sit in nature and observe. I'm super nerdy like that. I like to just sit outside and watch the birds, or I will look at the trees. All the trees are changing right now because it's autumn here in the northern hemisphere. If you're in the southern hemisphere, the trees are probably still changing, right? Just in a different way. So the whole point to this is that we get present and we observe and we quiet the mind by tuning into what's happening around us. And when you do that, when you're tempering that desire to take action, which can come through the mind, right? Because the mind will loop things like, oh no, you got to do this. And what about your chores? And what about this thing? And hey, if you want to get that business started, remember you got to do X, Y, and Z. Like, again, we have this idea of how things are supposed to unfold, and the mind runs those patterns for us, and it can be very, very persistent. Um, but if we can just tune into our surroundings through that Taurus energy, there is this beautiful, soft, divine illumination on offer through this full moon. We can receive that vision. We know then what is the actual choice to make, what is the actual next step to take in order to move forward on our path. And again, if we hold a little flexibility around that, if we're willing to receive that message for what it is and not try to conform it to our old patterns, then we can shift into a new dynamic, into a new pathway that is going to be so much more abundant. It's so much more fluid. It's such a more direct path to get to where we want, even if it seems completely illogical on the surface or completely contradicts what we previously believed would happen. Okay? Woo! All right. I was on a roll here, folks. I hope that this all made sense to you. If it didn't, drop me a comment. I'll see if I can clarify anything for you. I really appreciate you all being here with me. Thank you so much for giving me space to share what I'm uncovering. Again, I'm in this with you. I am watching it unfold in my own life step by step, and it is flippin' beautiful. And I love the energy today, and I am grateful for what we are being given at this time. And that's another beautiful thing to do, to cultivate stillness and to get grounded into yourself. Gratitude. And that is also a very Taurus thing to do. Gratitude. So step into gratitude. Be thankful for what you have. You'll be amazed at what is going to show up next if you stop to listen and observe. Thank you for being here. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please like this video. Please hit the notification bell if you haven't already. You'll be notified whenever I post a new video. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for supporting me. I love you all. I hope you have a beautiful weekend and a beautiful journey into this full moon event. It's going to be an excellent time for all of us. Thank you so much, folks. Take care. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.